This presentation is about how one investigative team in Ohio is retooling cognitive assistive technology to enhance their investigations that impact persons with developmental disabilities. This was presented by the investigative team at the Clermont County Board of Developmental Disabilities, led by their manager, Christine Darling, and Dr. Maria McWirt of EmpowerMe. The presentation was hosted by Willie Jones, the Director of Health, Safety, and Wellness for the Ohio Association of County Boards, during their statewide conference on December 5, 2024 in Columbus, Ohio. The Clermont Investigations team thanks the OACB for the opportunity to share their progress on their DODD grant project for customizing innovative tech for DD investigators. They hope sharing their experience inspires other DD professionals and county boards to consider using customizable cognitive tech to improve meaningful interactions and reduce MUIs. By leveraging the retooling work that Clermont has already completed, other professionals can accelerate the development of organizational guides that can improve individuals' access to information about their rights, service and provider options, and processes related to board activities, improve everyone's understanding of the individual's perspective on their support planning, prevention planning, and team meetings, automatically and electronically verify the individual's choices, consents, satisfaction ratings, requests and complaints, and offer board and provider staff reference guides for FAQs about programs, services, processes, and critical or changing information about the individual they're supporting without a full ISP revision. Regardless of the role we play in an individual's life, we all want to reduce risks, decrease the likelihood of reoccurrence of incidents that affect health and safety, and empower individuals to move forward. We believe the root of many incidents may be the need for meaningful human connections, to be understood and connected. In Ohio, there are about 20 different types of incidents that are classified as major unusual incidents, or MUIs, that must be investigated by a developmental disabilities, or DD investigator, if a person with a developmental disability is impacted by it. As DD investigators, our role in keeping people in our county safe has two parts: facts and details about every MUI, and causation and prevention of that and other MUIs for the individuals impacted by the MUI we're investigating. Let's consider a day in the life of a DD investigative agent. I'm going to ask you to use your imagination and open yourself up to the possibility of using technology as a tool to do your job in a more effective and meaningful way. Imagine if you were an investigator, or if you are an investigator, imagine sitting at your desk. It's of course 2 p.m. on a Friday. The phone rings, the email chimes that you've got mail, the fax beeps, or someone storms into your office. You receive notification of an incident. You review the written report, and the case description definitely meets MUI criteria. You look around for a minute and wonder if it's another investigator's turn. Nope. It's all yours because it's 2 o'clock on a Friday, so it's a ghost town in the office. You look at the name on the report. Do you know the person? Have you heard of them? Nope, you don't know them, but you see they have a provider and an SSA. You search for their ISP, hoping it's written well. If you're in Clermont County, it is. You see the communication section. It says something along the lines of the person is nonverbal, limited communication, shy around new people, or the big one, the person gets anxious around investigators or authorities. You read through the incident report again. The circumstances are serious. The allegations are abuse, misappropriation, missing individual, etc. As you file your initial statement and ensure the immediate actions are in place, you think to yourself, this needs to be thorough. We need to gather as much as we can. The input needs to be meaningful. We need to build a solid case and make the best determination. We need to be able to give the team enough information so they can identify cause and contributing factors and develop strong action steps to prevent reoccurrence. We need to advocate for the person and empower them to move forward. At times, even well-intentioned team members may tell you that the individual is nonverbal and cannot really be interviewed. Or sometimes people try to speak for or on behalf of the person. They may have worked together for 30 years. They know each other. It may be a parent or a sibling. Admittedly, sometimes IAs have gone ahead and documented in their report that the person isn't a credible witness, they have no orientation to time, or they're not able to provide input about the incident. Others have to inform the entire investigation. Christine Darling says she's not proud of this, but knows many of us have done this and that forever sticks with all of us. So, you start your interviews, gather statements from witnesses who are verbal and able to contribute. You read through documentation, review photos, and carefully read hospital discharge paperwork and police reports. It nags at you that you don't really have true input from the person. You go to meet the person as soon as possible and try to coolly introduce yourself. You show your badge, give them a card, and maybe even a nice brochure from your county. You stumble over some words about why you are there and why you just showed up at their house. Maybe at a bad time, because you scheduled this with a home manager and not them. Do they truly understand and believe you are there for them? Do they feel they can talk to you safely? You try to connect, but you really don't have a good understanding of the incident from that person's perspective. You want to advocate and empower the person to move forward. You look around at some of the housemates and wonder, surely they saw the incident too. What do they think about it? Has it happened before? Do they have secondary trauma? And what happens when we just leave them out? As the case goes on and the team is developing a prevention plan, you again think, is the person truly included? Is the prevention plan really what the person wants to happen and feels they need to move forward? Christine Darling says she's been in investigations for many years. And while she's not the best investigative agent, she thinks she's a decent IA who really tries for those individuals she meets and Clermont County serves. But these are the cases that seem to linger for her, for other IAs and teams too, as it sometimes just seems more could have and should have been done to include the person affected by the incident in the investigation and the prevention plan. In Clermont, they started to ask, but how? Imagine if they, as DD professionals, had a tool they could use with research behind it that was specific to the person and built in a way that not only engaged them, but empowered them? We are impossibly busy. There are more cases than ours. We need tools that don't create extra work, but that makes our cases better, more thorough, and make our connections with people more meaningful. And in the best of circumstances, reduce risks. So Christine Darling began wondering if technology could help introduce the investigator, ask sensitive questions, and interpret the answers better than how they had been doing those tasks, and often not feeling like they really understood what the individual is experiencing or wanting. In 2023, the Clermont DD investigators met Maria from Empower Me at their annual tech fair. They learned about their My Guide app that is backed by research with 700 individuals and their clinicians over 3 years. It's customizable cognitive support technology, proven to improve engagement, choice-making, communication, and self-regulation for people with cognitive differences, including DD. The investigators explored all of their integrated solutions, like the Boundary Care smartwatch that sends reminders to the person and has a tap to talk to their support team button, a library for families to learn American Sign Language, weighted vests with exercise attachments and independent fitness programs, and inclusive virtual social classes and groups that connect people all across the country. Christine noted all of this amazing assistive technology is available for individuals. But what if her team, as DD professionals, could use cognitive support tech to be more effective and have more meaningful interactions with individuals served through the course of their work? The investigative team's partnership with Empower Me grew as Christine Darling explained her vision for investigators to be able to include the voice and choice of the individual impacted by an MUI and to understand them well enough to help their team prevent reoccurrence. She and her team of investigators were certain that My Guide could help them introduce the investigator, ask questions about the MUI, which are usually sensitive questions about a trauma they've just experienced, and interpret their answers more effectively than they had been able to do without any technology. Their challenge was funding. My Guide is covered by the waivers as assistive technology for individuals, but that's a whole other world away from giving IAs a tool they can use to prep for an interview they need to do in a few hours or days. They needed My Guide for professionals, so the Clermont investigative team applied for and were awarded a 2-year DODD grant for technology innovations. Christine Darling and Dr. Maria McWhirt co-direct the project together. Dr. Maria McWhirt and her son, Dan Mills, co-founded Empower Me in 2017 after he developed the first My Guide version for them to connect with and better understand his little brother who has autism. They successfully avoided institutionalization for him, went on to test my guide, and today they all work for Empower Me to equip and train professionals and families to customize my guide to better connect with and understand the people they serve. The Clermont investigative team needed a roadmap to get from where they were to Christine's vision of rapidly preparing for meaningful and effective interactions with individuals impacted by an MUI. So first, Maria and the Empower Me team, including clinicians in occupational therapy, speech therapy, and behavioral analysis, provided training and led exercises with the investigators about cognitive functioning, common cognitive needs for people with developmental disabilities, and cognitive tech capabilities that are proven to support those needs. Next, the investigators piloted some guides in the field with about 16 individuals affected by an MUI. Up until that point, we could really only theorize how it might work for professionals responsible for discussing sensitive topics, while the individual might still be experiencing crisis. Because my guide has been tested and used successfully only in the context of individual use, not professional use. And finally, the investigators began building a master guide protocol, which includes suggested lines of questioning for different types of MUIs, with customizable response options that the investigator can personalize quickly without reinventing the wheel over and over, and can add or edit questions and response options in the moment, and even remotely in real time. The guide protocol is specifically designed to generate time and date-stamped documentation of the individual's navigation and responses in a HIPAA-compliant report. The investigator's retooling of MyGuide Cloud software seems like a natural evolution because the fundamentals of meaningful interaction in the context of MUI investigation and prevention mirrors the three fundamental functions of MyGuide. First, present the right information at the right time and in the right format to make it meaningful to the individual. Second, encourage feedback in whatever way they can provide it and make the tech do the heavy lifting to soften the social pressure of live in-person interactions and the intensity of the topic of conversation wherever possible. And third, connect them to their chosen community, which includes HIPAA and FERPA compliant reports about the person's navigation of the guide and their responses in the context of the prompt or questions they were asked. My guide reports are automatically generated and accessible and downloadable to the investigators. Christine recognizes that as DD professionals, we should be figuring out how to interact with the people we serve instead of expecting them to figure out what they need to communicate with us and then expecting them to access it and customize it. So where did they start with their project to retool cognitive tech for DD professionals? They started with Hello. Maria explains how, as a recovering social worker, she was blown away by the intensity of the information that investigators need to collect from an individual freshly impacted by a trauma. She noted the internal conflict investigators must experience as they're deeply committed to the value of informed consent. Yet to do their job, they need to roll up to the house unannounced, flash a badge, and start asking questions about the trauma that they might still be acutely experiencing, all without any of their informed consent. Yet still, that interaction might be their only chance to make a meaningful connection with the person. This certainly contributed to the very low individual participation in investigations last year. Out of approximately 350 MUI investigations, only 5 of them had included substantive input from the individual impacted by it. In a successful attempt to combine a warmer introduction to the investigator with the opportunity to give informed consent to participate in an interview, each investigator created their own intro guide. An intro guide includes personal details about the IA that the person can relate to, then explains why they are there, and finally asks for their consent to be interviewed. It's a simple way to use tech to increase opportunities for documented informed consent. And guess what? They can say no, and the IA will respect that. But what if they say yes? This slide represents hours of training and subsequent weeks of developing tools for investigators to use to quickly put together an interview plan with an individual, because they might only have one chance to figure out what their internal experiences are and were because of the MUI. This team has developed an interaction preferences assessment that they can use themselves to consider how the individual prefers to be presented with information, to respond or answer questions, to think through things and see the world, and to assess and report how they're doing. Dr. McWirt says it's been her responsibility and privilege to combine all of this into something operational and easy enough for very busy investigators to find useful. Together, the IAs and EmpowerMe designed a master guide protocol that an investigator can customize quickly to facilitate an interaction with an individual. First, they determine which questions do I need to ask and which order do I ask them in. The master guide protocol includes all the questions that could be asked, so the IA will delete the screens that aren't needed and reorder the ones that are. They consider relevant factors that can cause the person to become overwhelmed or bored, which can cause the person to prematurely end the interview. Next, how can I provide meaningful context? Orienting and keeping anyone on the topic of an incident can be hard, even without the effects of trauma or without communication challenges. The Master Guide protocol pre-programs context clues with prompts, words, images, and response options that the IA can customize for the incident and personalize for the person. And finally, what types of responses do I want to collect? Do I just need confirmation, as in a yes or no answer? A perspective, like good or bad, identification of a person, place, or thing? Or is it an open-ended question that needs as much detail as possible? Here's an example of the ways the person can respond to a question or prompt with a tablet that the investigator hands them, or on their own device whether the investigator is present or not. They can choose emojis or multiple choice options with images, text, and spoken words. When they make a selection, My Guide can provide biofeedback, such as vibration on touch, called haptic feedback, sound, spoken words, images or videos that appear, digital confetti on the screen, or going to another page or a website. They can tell or show the IA their response to the prompt or question. This helps the individual and the IA understand one another by providing specific context for the topic. They can also type out a response or use the microphone to dictate their response, and My Guide will type the words it hears. Everything typed or dictated will be reported with a time and date stamp, along with the exact question or prompt that was presented. They can also draw or write on a whiteboard, on a form or picture, like this one here asking to draw where they feel sick or hurt on their body. This feature is also how individuals can provide their signature or complete a form digitally and remotely that will be included in the My Guide report. Another option is that they can take a picture or share a picture that's already on the device they're using. This option is also used to check in with the person over time about things that change more often than a professional can visit them, such as an injury, the condition of the home, food supply, and more. So far, overall, the investigators' interactions with individuals are notably more engaging and meaningful. Christine has watched connections being made with individuals they previously struggled to gather input from and connect with. Some connections have been very brief, but prior to using a guide, the connection may not have been made at all. She says they are hopeful that those brief interactions may build future connections. This project has prompted conversations with staff and families who are present during an interview with a guide about what would be better, what would help, what we can do better next time, and elements of prevention planning. Although this may have happened without tech, using My Guide definitely helped everyone on the team better understand the person and specifically prompted a more unified focus on person-centered improvement. Christine has watched her team grow with interviewing skills, advocacy, and teamwork for both their IA team and with individuals' teams. For example, carefully planning the Master Guide protocol provided an opportunity to discuss with her team the implications of approaching an interview with, "I wanted to talk to you about something bad that happened." This verbiage may suggest judgment on an incident the individual does not believe to be bad, or they may internalize the word bad in a way that prevents them from wanting to continue the conversation. This is just one example of how the team is working on different approaches to investigations and subsequent prevention planning that achieve more input from the individual. As the manager, Christine is eager to see if using this tool can help change or decrease repeat incidents. Because if interactions with individuals are more engaging and meaningful, then maybe prevention plans will be more meaningful and effective as well. She says that as they continue to try to do more with less, tech has to be a part of how they do their work. All of the outcomes for individuals during the My Guide pilot project have been overwhelmingly positive. The IAs are building rapport quicker with the intro guides. They have observed and have My Guide reports that indicate the individual understands who the IA is, why they are here, what their role is, what MUIs are, etc. The IAs are reducing risk just by improving the understanding of the internal experiences and perspectives of the individual by their support team in the IA. They're showing the individual in a very direct and personalized way that they understand the importance of their safety and their involvement in their own lives and development of their plan. They can observe how the guides help the individual separate the interview question from their desire to please others and from the influence of an IA or others who might be present during the interview. These are some examples of the meaningful interactions the team has seen so far. One individual liked the intro guide and asked about the IA's cat. It made her comfortable enough to talk in person with the IA she just met. She lit up as she went through the questions, responding independently by typing and clicking on things. She was quickly navigating through it and was very focused. She said, "I like the way you created that. I would like something like that when I can't physically say things, like when I am mad." She talked with her team about the possibility of her using My Guide to touch in and record each day if she took her meds, how she felt after taking them. Did she have nightmares the night before? Could she describe them? Could she go back to sleep? How she feels now, her problems, and things she wants to ask her doctor, mom, or her staff. Sometimes IAs are concerned about how they or others who are present might affect an interview. One individual was able to take the tablet and sit by themselves under a tree and answer questions independently, when, in prior incidents, they were concerned about possible undue influence with those the person typically asked to be present. An IA was finally able to engage with an individual who typically would not be present at all for a visit from the IA about an MUI. He liked that he could draw his responses. He chose to draw something he was afraid of. With an individual who was hard of hearing and extremely difficult to understand, the IAs used a stock photo of someone using a cane in the guide because they didn't have an actual photo of the person they wanted to ask about. The individual immediately oriented to the time of the incident. She asked to show the IAs the backpack she had purchased, and the staff explained that she had purchased the backpack on the day of the incident. She then began to express her experience of the incident with gestures. One provider suggested a similar guide could be used with staff who are limited in writing skills or English as their second language. The guide can also speak English text in another language. The staff wants a guide to learn about the MUI, the individual's trauma, and how to prevent triggering or reoccurrence. Christine says the IA team is grateful that the grant helped them get going. They uncovered some challenges that the team and the board have identified as opportunities to improve investigations and prevention strategies. They are excited to offer other boards and investigative teams their master guide protocol, sample guides, guide templates, and other tools they develop for interaction preparations. She also summarizes the hopes the IA team has for the future of the project and incorporation of evidence-based tools and innovative practices. Ultimately, they hope to decrease risks and repeat incidents, to increase the involvement of individuals with moving forward in prevention planning, enhance services by honoring voice and choice, increasing reports of incidents directly from individuals, and increase the investigators' use of tech and tools on a daily basis for better connections with the people they serve. At the OACB conference, the IAs led the audience in some trial My Guide activities, like playing sample guides, copying a master guide protocol into their own library, and then personalizing it for use in a mock interview with an individual. Please feel free to reach out to either Christine Darling at c.darling@clermontdde.org or Maria McWirt at maria@mpm.care for more information. Empower Me presented the 2024 Innovation Champion Award of Thanks and Recognition to Christine A. Darling, Investigations Manager of Clermont County Board of Developmental Disabilities, to honor her exceptional dedication and support to ensure the ongoing improvement and success of investigative approaches to reduce risks to health and safety, and to empower individuals with developmental disabilities to move forward. Her vision for applying innovative technology is helping DD investigators and professionals make meaningful human connections with the people they serve by understanding them better.